Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Bryan. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. Hey, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Bryan Alzate. I want to give a special shout out to DB Podcast for their museum quality audio. And today I have my good friend, Bill J. I met you in California previously, and you told me you were starting a podcast, the Broken Crayon podcast. I was like, bro, whenever you come to Florida, come on out. And here you are. Oh, you're in town for work?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
What do you do for work?
I work in drug treatment. So I work for a company. I'm the national alumni director. So I get to travel around the country and...
For the one that I spoke at, or a different one?
No, different one. It's we got facilities, out in California and basically in Los Angeles, and then we have some out here in Florida, Texas, Jersey.
Okay. Cool.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I'm out here just I actually just started with that company, so I'm like down here just like seeing what they got going on over here.
Okay. Cool, man.
Getting lined up.
Yes, sir.
Taking advantage of being able to travel too.
Yeah. Of course, man.
Something I didn't get to do too much early on.
So, where are you originally from? What's your story?
All right, so I'll just give the rundown. Like I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I was raised in a neighborhood.
The Eagles just won, right? Yeah, I don't watch football, but I see it all over the place.
Bro, yeah, that's like all day today. It's like people have been saying like, oh, you're from Philly, because like I'm starting to meet all these new people, and they're like, oh, you're from Philly. Like, hey, how about the Eagles? And then one guy like had to bring up the Astros, and that's a baseball thing. Like they just hurt my feelings in baseball. So yeah, it's a whole nother thing. So yeah, so like I said, I'm from Philly, born and raised there. I don't see. So when it comes to like addiction, right? I mean, it's like one of those crazy things, bro. Like if you take my resume, like of my life, like it's like it makes sense that I went down a path that I went down. So I'm from a neighborhood called Kensington. Right.
I heard it's a really nice area.
Very, very nice.
Very touristy.
Yeah. Go visit if you ever go there.
I've been there.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things. Like so being born and raised.
You're born and raised in Kensington.
Born and raised. Yeah. I was born.
I didn't know anyone was born there.
Yeah. So there's a hospital, which is crazy now because the hospital I was born at is a treatment center now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. It's right up on Tulip and Allegheny. Yeah, so like I was born in that neighborhood and I was raised in that neighborhood, and like growing up, like bro, it's like the typical like Kensington story growing up, like in the area that I grew up in. Like my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict, very violent. My mom had 5 kids in like a 7-year period, right? From 77 to 83, or a 6-year period. And it was like one of those things, like, and it's like I tell people, like, right, like this thing, like how I grew up and the things that happened to me when I was younger, like that's not like why I became a drug addict. Because like a lot of people, like, especially like the stigma on addiction is like we start doing drugs and then we're just junkies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't understand, like just the use of drugs was just like that was like our fix to get away from like what was really going on, right? So it's like I grew up in a household where, like I said, like my dad was real violent. So like, and this is stuff I didn't learn until later on in life, like when I got in recovery. Like as a young kid, like it was like the norm to like walk outside and like seeing people smoke crack and shooting heroin. It was the norm to seeing girls like hop in cars to prostitute. It was the norm to like look out in my backyard and seeing like homeless people from the neighborhood like getting high. Like that was normal. So like it was the norm also, like, that was outside the home, but then also like inside the home, it was normal, like, at about 7:00 at night, like if my dad wasn't home yet, like to get prepared for like the ass whooping that was coming along when he walked in the door, right? Because like, back then, like it wasn't like it wasn't domestic violence wasn't like really a thing, you know what I mean? So like my dad would come in and after he blew his wad at the bar or on the corner buying crack, like, you know, he would come in the house and he'd beat me and my brother up, so my mom would give him more money so he can go out and get high, you know? And then I didn't understand because, like I said, though, even though my dad did those things, my dad was still present. You know what I mean? It's not like it was like one of those things where he wasn't around. So like he would whoop my ass like Tuesday through Saturday, but then like Sunday morning, he would wake me up at 5 a.m. and be like, let's go. You're going to go to work with me for the day, you know, and like hang out with me. And
and a lot of times people paint their childhoods like good or bad. And a lot of people don't see that you can have an abusive father and still hate and love them at the same time, you know, because I used to think that you couldn't resent someone you hated. And I was really confused how, you know, you could dislike someone and some of the things they did and still love them. And it's not like in the movies. In the movies, people are either good or bad.
Yeah.
You figure out if they're good or bad. And then maybe at the end of the movie, they'll change. But like they're either on one side of the fence. And it's like a lot of times in our childhood, we have family that did, you know, the best they could or whatever. And they might have done a bunch of fucked up shit, but, you know, they might have done a lot of good things too. And it's kind of hard to accept that. And it doesn't like make the bad like go away, you know what I mean? But you can't not look at it either.
No, bro, and you're that's exactly on point because like, and it's like I tell people, and that's why like that was one of the things I was so happy I learned through recovery is that like, so those aren't the reasons why I was an addict, right? So it's like just because my dad did those things, you know, like what it was I was given information from a person that didn't know how to give information. Right. So I was shown what love was through a person that didn't know what love was. Right. So what happened is like growing up, it's like, so, you know, with the crazy outside and the crazy inside, like I didn't understand, like I didn't know where like the sanity in the world and in life was. Right. And for me, it trickled into like, so like, being young, going on the outside, like, you know, the dudes in the neighborhood, when they would like teach me things and, you know, having to like follow that to want to, because it's like, you know, being at home and like, and not feeling love at home. Right. So we seek it from the outside and then we go out and we try and seek love from the outside. And it's like, again, people with misinformation trying to give us information. So it's like going out and early on for me, it was going to jail real young. You know, like I fell right into that thing, like getting attention, you know, seeking attention and getting attention through doing things like acting crazy and going to jail and like and being that dude, like, oh, he don't care about nothing, you know what I mean? Like fucking, you throw a gun in his hand, or you can, you know what I mean? You can do some crazy shit and he's down for whatever, and like and that false love that we get from those things. So I said, like, yeah, if you put my resume on, like, yeah, of course, like I was going to become a convict and a drug addict for what I was like, you know, for what I was born
predestined to do. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's no different than people who grew up in neighborhoods where like, you know, oh, I got a better grade than you did. You know what I mean? And it's like, bro, there's some neighborhoods where it's like, you know, fighting and gang related and who can do the most time or whatever. But like, you know, I remember growing up like thinking like going to court was cool. Yeah. You know, I was like, you know, like everyone had a charge that they were, you know, whatever, like on probation. And it was almost like, oh, you don't have any charges? Like what? You know, and it's like my idea of like what cool was has changed so much since I got clean. But like when I got clean, it kind of makes me sad because I think about how young I was. Like no kid should be like selling drugs and trying to like impress the other men or trying to get girls like in 5th, 6th grade, you know what I mean? So because there's someone who probably grew up in the same environment didn't turn out that way. Yeah. You know?
No, definitely. Like, and for me, it was like that happened in my household, you know, because like my older brother at 18, he, instead of like turning to the streets or anything like that, like he went to the military. You know, and he went in the Army, and his life, like his path, like if you see me and him, like we're like completely different. And that's why it's like, you know, when it comes to the disease of addiction, where I say, so it's so like, you know, it's like the chicken or the egg. Like, are we born with it, or is it something, or is it a learned behavior? Is it something that we become? I don't fucking know. But I'll tell you, I had the disease of addiction. I know that today. You know what I mean? My brother, not so much. You know, even though he grew up same circumstance, same environment, everything.
Yeah, I got kids I grew up with who tried the same drugs that I tried. after an hour, they'd be like, bro, I don't like the way this makes me feel. I'd be like, I'd be so mad. I'm like, oh, well, you're not getting your money back. And they'd be like, bro, you can have it. And it's like, I just couldn't imagine how somebody, one, would like give up drugs, and two, not want to keep doing them. And it's like some people have something in their head that says, hey, it's time to go home. They have a pause button. They have a braking system.
And it's switch.
Yeah, and it's like, I truly believe that I was born without one. I remember before drugs, like me and my brother got go-karts when we were little, and my dad started them up, and my dad said, go slow. My brother went slow. And as soon as that thing went on, bro, I just floored it.
Yeah, right.
And no one told me to floor it. No one coached me to floor it. My environment didn't get me to floor it. It was just predetermined on how I operated. And I floored it. And like, I remember I hit a mailbox. And I remember getting in trouble for things like that as a kid. And they were inexplicable. I couldn't explain why I would floor it when he told me to go slow. I just kept doing things like that as a kid. And then, dude, you add drugs to the mix, and it's addiction.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I know for me, it was like drugs became like, and it's like how I try and explain it. Like drugs made it just like okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because like it's like, and it's like when we say, especially like when in this life, in this world of addiction, when we say like drugs are but a symptom to what the disease is, right? So when you tell people like it's really not about doing drugs, because the reality of it is like we can stop. You know what I mean? It's about staying stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've learned recently, over the past like 2 years about the staying stop portion. Yeah, we can stop, but the thing is, it's like drugs just like, for me, it was like, it made it like easy for me to do the things that I didn't want to do. You know what I mean? So like I said, like me, like I went to jail at a really young age, and I started going to prison at a really young age. Like I remember like going to jail, and because you hear the stories and you hear what you got to get ready for and what you got to be prepared for, and then you go and it's completely different than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I got lucky or what it was.
Yeah, I know like every prison is different, because like I've had friends that went to Florida prison. They're like, oh, it was like daycare. And then I have friends that went to another Florida prison, and they're like, bro, people are getting stabbed every day,
Yeah.
So like everyone, in jail is a different type of jail or prison.
I mean, so like I did all my time in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania I've been to the our maximum security prisons, and I've been to like in the city of Philadelphia alone, we have it's like 6 or 7 different county jails just in because Philadelphia is one city, one county. And we have 6 jails and county jails in there, right? And that's the easiest way I can describe it. And you have everywhere from PIC, which is closed custody, we call it. That's like maximum, all the way down to like, I mean, minimum. I don't know. I've never been to the minimum jails. I've always been in closed custody because I've always had violent crimes. But like what I said, like I think my experience, I don't know like if it was like something that always went with me in jail, but it's like I've always like been able to be around people like I remember being in prison at a young age and going to the hole. And I remember going there with a guy that had a couple life sentences, because mind you, like Pennsylvania is a life state. Like life is life.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a life sentence, you're never coming home.
It's like a true life. Like I think I don't know if it's in Florida it's like that, but I know in some states life is like 25 years.
Yeah. Or like Jersey, it's like 16 years or 13 years, something like that. So it's like, but yeah, Pennsylvania, if you get any letters in your sentence, like you're done, you're cooked, you're never coming home. Right. But being in there with guys that had life sentences and like, and them guys like coming around me and like, I don't know if and now today, I think I kind of know what it is. I think they've always seen something in me that was like, to where it wasn't like, I wasn't like, I'd be in there for your typical shit, like the dumb, like fighting and all that stuff and doing drugs. But like they seen something in me that wasn't typical. And it showed like throughout my process of recovery. Like,
what would they say to you?
I mean, it would just be like things like, and it's crazy. And these aren't guys in recovery. These are guys like that have been down for a long time, but like saying things to me like that I remember them saying like don't allow another man's actions, thoughts, or behaviors dictate your action, thoughts, or behaviors. Check yourself. Like you're better than what you're putting yourself in. Like you could do better. Life could be better. You know what I mean? Things like you don't have a life sentence. Like what are you going to gain out of this? What are you going to get out of this? Like, what are you doing to better yourself? You know, so I've always been fortunate where I
You
had
know who I
guys
love
pushing me.
from Philly is Gilly and Wallow.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, dude, they're the best.
yeah.
But dude, like like I saw Wallow get out of prison on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I seen like his whole thing and like his whole book of life and everything he did like in prison is just like
Yeah.
it's crazy what someone can do with their prison sentence,
Yeah,
bro.
and I think a lot of it in the state of Pennsylvania, the reason why it's like that, and don't get me wrong, like bro, like I did the whole culture in prison. Like I ran with, you know, a set of dudes that have a name. You know, we would be classified as a gang. You know, Philadelphia's not a gang city. Like we don't have Bloods and Crips. We're not a gang city. We're a neighborhood city. It's like where you're from. You know what I mean? And it's not. We don't have all that stuff. So like when it trickulates,
So like you're not jumping someone in.
no.
It's like if you're not from here, it's not happening.
Yeah. You know, like me growing up, being from where I'm from, and you know, and having family, knowing the people I know, and going to school, and growing up with dudes I grew up with, like that type of like that gang stuff didn't apply to us. You know what I mean?
What percentage of Kensington was white?
Growing up, probably half.
Oh wow, okay.
It still is a large percentage of Kensington still is white.
Gotcha.
See, that's why like it's crazy now, like living in Los Angeles and you know, and traveling as much as I do, and I see like where I don't know, Philly's kind of like it's a different breed of people. You know, that's why like, you know, like you don't, it's not about race there. You know, I mean, sure, you're gonna. I'm not getting into the whole race thing, but all I'm saying though, it's like.
If you're in the hood, it doesn't mean it's a black neighborhood.
Yeah, don't unless like you're uptown and it's all black. But like you go to Kensington and on a block you have blacks, whites, Puerto Ricans, and all nationalities. You know, and the thing is like and we have a camaraderie because we're all growing up in this bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, like you're white, so it's different. No, like we're all fucked up.
We're
you know
all,
what I mean? My mom's staying in a welfare line with your mom, so we're no different. You know what I mean? We're both like starving in school and shit. You know? Yeah, so it's different there, you know, and so like how it trickulates into prison, so like it's different. Like being a white dude from where I'm from and running with the dudes that I ran, like it's not one of those things like it ain't. I don't know. We just don't like white dudes from Philly. Like we don't take the disrespect, but we also respect others too. It's different politics, and that's like something I learned in LA. Like in California, jail politics are completely different.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
You know, but it's crazy though. It's because like, and knowing that, and like the beauty of recovery. Like one of the coolest, dopest things I've seen out there is a really good friend of mine in recovery, bro, and he's like, you know, 25 years in, bro, straight stout skinhead, like, you know, swastikas, bolts, everything. You know, he got into recovery, didn't know what it was about. You know, he started managing a sober living house, a place where I met yet, started managing one of them houses. And like, bro, and in his house, he had Mexicans and blacks. And, you know, and his house was like the felon house, you know, and just seeing this dude transform over time. Like, I wish everybody can experience that in recovery, seeing that transformation.
Yeah, because like in recovery, we see things that you don't see. So like normally if someone's racist, it's like, they're racist, fuck them, whatever. And in recovery, I've seen people raise their hand or like talk to people about like, yo, I'm struggling with being racist. And I've had people be like, I don't want to be racist, but I just grew up knowing nothing different. And they're like, help me. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, I don't want to be like this. Like, I know that it's bad. You know, I've sponsored guys who are white who are like, I hate white people. Like, they're racist against their own people. They're like, bro, I hate white people, da da da. And like, you know, he's been to prison and all this shit. And like, you know, he's just like, you know, in prison, he's like, but he hated everybody. You know, I was like, bro, who do you like? And he'd be like, Spanish people are cool. You know?
There are. But it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. Like, you know, it's not like, that's why we do drugs. It makes us be able to be racist. It makes us be able to be hateful, angry, violent, all those things, you know. And then like what's crazy is like is when we, you know, when we start like doing the opposite. Like, you know, all those like opposites of like what we were, and we start being loving, kind, compassionate, caring, and it's like it's weird at first.
Yeah, and it kind of happens like without your permission. You know, you don't get clean thinking like, you know, you're gonna change, like you're gonna be like some sweetheart, you know. it kind of feels good, you know, like it feels good, you know. And then like I remember the first time I seen someone tough, but really kind. And I had never seen that before because I've only seen tough and mean. I've never seen tough and kind.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Never, like not even in a movie, you know what I mean? This new year, you have goals and Factor is here to help you achieve each and every one of them. Fuel up fast with ready-to-eat, nutritious meals delivered straight to your door, leaving you time and energy to tackle everything on your to-do list, achieve and maintain your 2023 goals with Factor. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. No matter your lifestyle, Factor has delicious, flavor-packed meals to help you live it to the fullest with keto, calorie-smart, vegan, and veggie, and protein plus options on the menu each week. With 34 chef-prepared, dietitian-approved weekly options, there's always something new to try. Eating vegan or veggie is a snap with Factor. And if you're looking to mix it up, you can add protein to select vegan and veggie meals each week. Get Factor and enjoy clean eating without the hassle. Head over to factormeals.com/exit50 and use code exit50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code exit50 at factormeals.com/exit50 to get 50% off your first box. It's like, bro, when you watch a movie, tough guys are mean.
Yeah,
you know?
No, definitely. So that's like the craziest thing. So, all right, so like, you know, like we know like what treatment, what rehab is, right? So I'll give a quick rundown how Philadelphia is, like how it is in the inner city, right? None of us got insurance. We're fucking, bro, we don't got a pot to fucking piss in, let alone an insurance policy, right? So I get out of prison in 2015. I'm at the parole office. I meet this girl. You know, I just finished doing a few years, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I see this girl in front of me. She got really long curly hair, a big butt, and 245s tattooed on her lower back.
Oh wow! Love at first sight.
Yeah, bro.
You guys are married. You got kids now.
Exactly right. And she turned around, and I was like, "You're mine. Like that's it. Like you're mine." And you know, and bro, and she was like a little female version of me. She was seeing her parole officer too. And we went on this crazy run together, right? And she was just like me. She loved shooting heroin, smoking crack, and getting crazy. So it was a match made in heaven, right? You know, and like it was crazy too, because like with that relationship, like I didn't realize how much like I got out of that relationship. Like, you know, like what I thought was love. Like I remember one time we're behind this tire shop and we're doing our morning wake up, right? Our morning fix, and we come out of the tire shop and we're both on the run from state parole. 2 bike cops are standing there and we know we had the fake name and all that shit to give to them, you know, and we're both doing it. She's giving it to her with the cop. She's talking to him, I'm doing it. The cop, I'm talking to the cop, turns around. He's like, hey, he's like, bro, he was like, I know your brother. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I know your brother, buddy. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I give him my real name and he's like, I'm like, look, man, I'm on a run from state parole. And he's like, look, I'm going to have to take you in. And the girls, but she was like, well, here, this is my name. If you got to take him, if you're going to take him, you got to take me too.
Oh, that's real love.
Real love.
That's
bro.
true love. That's true Bonnie love. And Clyde shit.
Exactly, bro. Right. So I'm like, damn, this is great. Right. So we wind up going to jail and I get out before her and I was out and, you know, so these people approach me and they say, hey, we're doing this documentary about the opiate epidemic in Kensington. And
really?
Yeah. So I'm like, first off, this has been an epidemic in Kensington since late 60s, early 70s. Like, this ain't nothing new to us. You know, I don't know about the rest of the world, but this ain't nothing new to us. Like, whatever, like that. And at the time, I was on a run from state parole. Yeah. So I was like, there's no possible way I'm doing this, you know? So she gets out of jail. She gets out. And I remember it was one night, I shot her up in her neck with some dope. She goes out and I start hitting her in the arcane. That was the first time like I shot a prayer up to God and I was like, God, like, and it was for somebody else, not for myself. I was like, get her out of this. I'll do whatever it takes to get her okay. She comes to, so next morning I hit them people up. The whole time I knew what it was about. You know, I hit them on, I was like, I'll do it, but she has to be involved, you know? So they start following us around with cameras and stuff. And I knew the whole time.
Was this on TV?
Yeah. So it was so it was the show, the TV show Intervention.
Oh, it was on Intervention.
Yeah. So
what?
Now
you were on Intervention?
Yeah. So I had no idea. Right now, mind you, like in Philadelphia, like if you want to get help, it looks like this. It's either if you're lucky, you can get on methadone.
Yeah.
Other than that, like there's no help, there's no treatment, nothing. So like I don't know anything about any of this shit, right?
Yeah, it's crazy because there's people like there's someone getting high right now that has no idea that they can get help or that places even exist. I didn't even know meetings existed. Bro, I used to cop crack on 441 in Peters, which you're probably not familiar with that area. And my home group was on University in Peters. It's literally like a mile away. And I copped crack there since I was 14 to 17, since I got clean. And my home group was like right there. And I was like, dude, I was living this whole area, this whole life, and never knew. And I didn't know that, like, and bro, I live in South Florida, like the mecca of recovery. Yeah. Like in Florida, South Florida, like people get clean at 19 every single day here. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like other places. Like this was the spot for recovery. And I was just didn't even know that one person could get clean, let alone hundreds of thousands in your backyard.
And I didn't know that there was like a way to do it.
Treatment or anything.
That like, you know, in Philadelphia, the sense of treatment is like get on methadone or Suboxone, you know,
and try to detox at your crib.
Yeah. If that. Or you get on a maintenance program and you're on it for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so while they were following me, I wound up getting locked up, and the judge, they were going to send me back, you know, and they wound up not sending me back, and they're like, hey, we're going to shoot you out to LA. And I go out there.
Hang on. This is intervention sending you to LA?
Yeah.
So they're following you while you're using, and then they're like, we're going to send you to LA?
Yeah. So they follow me around. I get locked up. I'm in jail, and they're like working it out with my judge, and like, all right, we're going to shoot him out to LA. And I go out to LA. And bro, and I remember going out to LA too. And this is, and I like telling this, right? Because like, especially working in treatment now, like we see so many people that come in that like don't want to get clean, you know? And it's like, and I tell you, don't ever give up on that person, because I was that person. Mm-hmm. Like when I went to treatment, I didn't go to treatment to get clean. Mm-hmm. I went to treatment to get my weight up and to see what the dope tastes like in LA. Like that was the plan, you know what I mean? Yeah. I had no idea like what was going to actually come, you know? Yeah, so they shoot me out to LA, and you know, like I said, like I mean, really, like the Mecca, like that's like Los Angeles, like. You know, a lot of that shit started there, you know, and
California and Florida is like, it's hard to use out there because it's just so much recovery, you know, like once you get into the program.
It's so, and the thing is, and there's so, like you would be, like, you're shocked at like the amount of people that are in recovery, and it's like, and I don't know, bro, the
diversity is just crazy. You got lawyers, doctors, ex-gang members. Yeah.
Well, in LA, and then you got like people, like famous people and musicians.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember I would go to this meeting, and I remember before the meeting, we're sitting down at a restaurant eating some food, and like I'm sitting here talking shit to some guy. After we're done eating, they're like, oh, that guy's worth like $3 billion. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, and like somebody like me, I'm like, damn, bro, like if I was in my addiction, and like it would have been bad, you know? But it's like learning, you know, going out here and what it just like it did for me, right? So it's like I go out here and like I'm introduced to a life that I never knew existed, right? You know, and the crazy thing is, like me and that girl, they sent me and her to the same area, right? Because that's the thing. So I have no idea like what treatment looks like, what any of the stuff looks like, and it's like I'm out there, bro. I went out there with like $20 in my pocket, nothing. Scared to death. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I just got around again, like just like in prison, like I got around people that like I've always been blessed to get around people that directed me in the right way. That would tell me like, look, this is what we do. Like, and if you want a different life, you do what we do, you're going to get what we get. And to break it down, I mean, I'm not a dummy, but like when you break it down into simple terms like that, like, all right, I can get down with that stuff, you know, like bro, like not having like a formal education, not having like a work history or anything like that. And I get out there and it's like, I'm showing this whole brand new way of life, you know, and start working in treatment and stuff. And then I start seeing like the good, bad, and ugly, you know, and that's the thing in recovery, bro. And I'm sure you got enough time clean that you know that we all get a turn. You know, for the good and the bad, you know. So at 10 months clean, that girl I was with, because she got clean too, and she stayed clean. And
you guys stay clean together?
Yeah, we stayed clean together.
Did intervention fly both of y'all out?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, bro. We were on American Airlines plane flying from Philly to LA, both detoxing on a plane. She's laying on top of me, sweating. Oh man, it was horrible.
Wow.
It was horrible. They didn't let us get one more. Like, it was so crazy.
Well, that's good.
Like, bro, like,
because I have heard so many stories about like, oh, they give people drugs and all this stuff.
No. I mean, you know, and that's the thing. Like with that show, like, you know, and that's why I said, like, in this industry, like, I've learned the good, bad, and indifferent about this industry. You know, not everybody's in it for the right reasons. Not everybody has, you know, it's hard, like, coming from like the type of environment that I come from, you know, and it's like, and it took a while for me to understand. I'm like, look, like, this person, they just want to get fucking clean. Like, why the fuck can't we just help them? You know what I mean? But I didn't understand business and what comes along with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, but yeah, even with the TV show, like I'll say, like, bro, it changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life and everything. But, like, you know, if
You still talk to them, the people from the show?
I talked to a couple of them, you know, like, to be honest, the interventionists, no.
Yeah.
Like, I won't talk to any of them. And it's one of them things, like, you know, their feet never match their mouth. And it's like one of those things, like, you know, and that's the thing, like, and that's something I learned too, is like, in this field, is like, a lot of people will use recovery as a tool, which to me, like, I mean, bro, I'm a staunch person in recovery. Like, that's like, bro, like, intervention helped me like change my life and those facilities. But recovery and 12-step fellowship,
real 12-step stuff.
that is like, my whole life is I owe it to a 12-step fellowship. Nothing else but that. You know, if it wasn't for sponsorship and all the things that I was told to do, if it wasn't for that, like, bro, like, you know.
And that's kind of like the point of the show, you know, because it's like a lot of times on like recovery shows, these people aren't even in recovery.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, they don't even go to meetings anymore.
No.
They've never gone to meetings, or they don't do service. They don't have a sponsor. And it's like, even people who like write these books, like, bro, I used to read like these recovery books, or people who are like used to be addicts, and like, you finish the book and be like, so what do I do? You know, like, it's just like they just stopped using. And I'm not like knocking anybody that does that, but like, I didn't see anything that was really promoting 12-step stuff that wasn't, to be frank, like old people. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you don't even see that. Like, there's no podcast about people talking about the 12 steps.
Bro, and that's the thing. Like, I don't, like, I don't like when people tell me, like, they work in this field or stuff. And then it's like, but then they're like, oh, but I don't have a sponsor. I don't work steps. I don't go to meetings. I don't have a home group. I don't do any of these things. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. To me, like, that's like,
it's like a fat personal trainer. You know? And that's really what it is. It's like, and bro, there's a time where you would go to like LA Fitness, and to be an LA Fitness trainer, bro, you had to be jacked. Yeah. And then after a while, it's like, bro, anybody could be a personal trainer over there. And it's kind of like what's happened to like the industry, and like, I try not to get judgmental. I'm trying to be like, they have their own process, you know, but, you know, my solution is like, you know what, I'm just going to do whatever I can to combat that, you know? Yeah.
Well, and it's like, so it's like, I tell people this, especially being in LA, and LA is such a liberal, like, open, which I don't knock. And I tell people,
smoke weed.
yeah. That, like, I mean, to me, I don't get that. Like, you know, like, I have to abstain from all mood and mind altering substances. And I fell victim, not this time, but I fell victim into that.
Cali sober.
Yeah. Like,
that's your people over there.
Like, bro, like, I can't, you know, that's, if they can do it, like, and I tell people all the time, if you could do it, that's cool. I can't. Me personally, I can't, because like, once I put a substance into my body, like, and I have the evidence, like, I mean, it's on national TV, the evidence of what happens when I put a substance in my body and what happens, you know. But if you can do it, you know, and I don't knock any. And
what I tell people is like, dude, I don't want to. So it's like, I like being clean. I've smoked weed. I was smoking weed in 4th grade. If smoking weed was the cure, I would have never did drugs. I've already tried just smoking weed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's just, it's counterproductive. For sure. You know, like, I mean, it's like one of those things, like, I don't know. I personally, like, I tell people, I won't trick myself, and I'll never put myself in a position where, like, I'll fool myself. Because, like, I fooled myself for 25 years of shooting heroin and smoking crack. I'm not going to do that anymore, you know? And, you know, it's like, and I tell people, like, hey, this is how I got clean, and this is what worked for me. maybe it'll work for you, and if you want to try a different way. But the reality of it is, it's like something I like using, especially at work when I deal with people coming in. It's like I tell them, like, why did you get clean? Like, what do you want to get clean for? Majority of the time we want to get clean for better quality of life. It's like asking ourselves those questions. Well, what are we willing to do to get that quality of life? Because I know me as a man, like when I say I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get that quality of life that I want, and I have another man that says, all right, well, these are the things that you're going to have to do to get this. I mean, that's one of the coolest things is like about recovery is like, that was like my first step of being a man, is being able to like commit to something and seeing it through.
And follow through. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like, I was telling someone the other day, it's like, dude, this is the first thing I ever followed through with in my life. This is the first time I ever said I was going to do something and stuck with it.
Yeah.
The only reason why I ever failed in anything in my whole life is because I just didn't stick with it. If I would have stuck with rapping in fourth grade, rapping, I'd be I'd be a rapper right now. And it's like, if I would have just stuck with sports, I would have done something with sports. Yeah. And it's like everything in my life that I ever failed at, I just, when it got hard, I said, nah, it's too hard. And when it got uncomfortable, I was like, nah, it's uncomfortable. I just walked away eventually. That's the only thing I've ever stuck with.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. It's like, because what I was saying, it started that whole tangent was like, we all have a turn in this, right? And in 10 months, like that girl, like she hit me up one Friday night. I was at a meeting. She hit me up. She was like, hey, like I'm fucking somebody else.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, and I think at that time I wasn't like really into my 6 steps. So like character, it was okay to act out on my character defects. So I did that. And like I was working a job and got fired because of how I acted. And and that happened, right? And they say like, finance and romance are those two things, and then like a week later, I get a phone call that, they found my little sister dead in a recovery house in Philadelphia.
Wow.
From a drug overdose.
How old was
she was 35.
Wow.
And it was like one of those things like, and I paid for her to go into that place, and and it was right before the TV show came out, so I really didn't have like, it was before I really like started like garnering like a reputation.
How long were you clean when the TV show came out?
I think I had like 14 months.
Okay. Oh, so it took a long time.
Yeah, it took a while for it to come out. It was, bro, everything about it was like different. Like my intervention, like, if you ever watch a show, like what they'll do is they'll pull a family into like a hotel room and do the intervention. Well, mine happened at 15th and Market in downtown Philadelphia, bro. Like walking right.
Because that's what I was thinking. It's like normally it's like a family thing. This is just you using. They just grab some random person off the street.
Well, like what it was, like I just walked out of the courthouse. I walked out of friggin', out of CJC in downtown Philly. Well, we call it Center City. I walked out of CJC in Center City, and I walk out, and I'm like, I was about to go hop on the train, the L train, to go like get loaded, and I see my sister and my niece come walking up, and all these cameras, and they're like, "No, like you got to get on a plane right now." I'm like, "Fuck!" Like I just want to get loaded, And finally, I gave in. Like I didn't have that. My family sit down and read these letters and all that. They said like we can't do that with you. Like you're crazy, bro. Like you got to go. And so like that situation, like so none of it was like normal. And then like typically like it comes out like within like 6 months of you going away, like it'll come out. And it didn't. It took 14 months. Which there was like good parts and bad parts of that, because like 14 months later, like people were coming back and like, oh wow, guy, he's still clean. From the season the season I was on, so there were 6 episodes in that season, and I was in all 6 episodes. Like it was a whole documentary thing. So it wasn't like I was on one show and and like when the show came out, it was like 6 weeks of just like, and like my anonymity went out the window.
How did you feel about watching that?
Like
did you feel like grateful watching it, or were you kind of like not wanting to watch it?
Well, mind you, right, a lot of like what was going on was like centered around my relationship with that girl too. And me and her just broke up, right? And my sister just died, and like and I'm going through all these changes in recovery. And like watching it, it was like, yeah, man, it was like it's like one of those things, like, I mean, just imagine seeing yourself at one of your lowest points of life.
Yeah.
And
it's like sometimes when I watch those shows, I don't want to watch it, because it's kind of like when people, like there's this one show that like interviews like people like on the street, And they're not like they don't like try to help them. They just interview them.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, they look so bad and fucked up and out of it and high. And I don't know. Sometimes like when I was using, I felt like I was just like a show to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't a person. Like people would just like want to hear what's happening with me just so that way they can like get their entertainment, their weekly news.
So we're a commodity.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're a commodity, right? And that's something like, and that's why I'm so thankful for my experiences, because like I get to help people identify what that is, right? So we are like in the grips of our addiction, like we're a commodity, like to the dope boys, you know, to the rest of society and all that stuff. Like we're just a commodity. We're a way to make money and be entertainment for people at the cost of our misery and suffering, right? You know, and then it's like being in the field of treatment. It's like, and I tell people all the time, because, you know, you get people with 20, 30, 40 treatment stays. And I'm like, bro, like you're pimping yourself to the treatment world. Like you're running in and out of these doors like it's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're on your 25th stay in treatment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, bro, and it's all you gotta do is like surrender. Like that's it, just surrender. But now you're, you know, but we get so used to it. So now it's like, but
It's
the
a part
best
of the
thing,
addiction.
yeah, exactly. So now it's like, and the cool thing is like being able to help them identify that, like, look, this is part of it.
There's another pattern that you're using. You're not really getting help. You're just getting oil changes.
Yeah, and then at the cost of what?
Yeah, you're wasting 5 years of your life if you don't die. You know?
Yeah, you know, and then like saying, because it's like, you know, my sister dying in a recovery house, which, you know, basically is in, you know, she, you know, and like seeing what it does to the family, you know, because like I tell people all the time, like, you know, there's good and bad out of that, right? Like my sister dying, like what recovery gave me was like I was able to hop on a plane the night that she died, and like I was able to fly from LA to Philly and go back to Philly and like be there for my mom, you know, and help her while she buried her baby. And it didn't even dawn on me till after, you know, being out there 10 days burying my sister, going through all that and going back to LA, and then like one day sitting down with my sponsor and talking to him and like telling him like, damn, bro, like shooting dope wasn't even like a thought while I was home. Like, wow. You know what I mean? And then like coming to terms with that, like, you know, because I'm an addict. I'm a true blue addict. Like I love, like that was my solution, and now it's no longer my solution. Not understanding it's not my solution anymore. You know, but then like what happens, you know, around here too is like, you know, and then I went through like a year period where like, bro, like I would go to bed every single night, like crying because like all I want to do is shoot dope. But because of the show and now like having this little bit of notoriety and people know me and following
recognize you?
Oh, bro, yeah, like bro, it was bad. It's especially in Philadelphia because it was such like it was
a
such
Kensington thing, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so like going home, like, you know, so like people like recognizing me, knowing who I was, and like, bro, my email and social media and all that stuff and everything, just like, you know, but then at the time of same time all that happened and dealing with like wanting to crawl into a box because like my little sister, she was a year and a half younger than me. Like she was my best friend my whole life. You know, and like I remember she died a month before I got my first year, celebrated my first year. And this is somebody I celebrated everything in life with, and like she wasn't there. You know what I mean? And dealing with all those things, but not telling people that I want to get loaded. Because like the insidiousness of the disease was like, you know, if I fail, that means this don't work. Yeah. You know, that's how my ego had me thinking. Like I'm that fucking important.
Powerful, yeah.
You know what I mean? And going for a long time, and then a year later, like my niece died. She got into a car accident. No, and she didn't drink or do drugs, nothing like that. And it was just a tragic accident, right? And she's 21 years old, and she was the one that stopped me. Like when I wanted to run from the show, she was the one. Like this girl, like, you know, she was my heart and soul, and you know, and then losing her, and it's like, no, you know, there's nothing to prepare us for this, you know, and then like trying to like go into a meeting in Philly, right? And going through all this stuff and going to a meeting and just trying to be like anonymous. And it just wasn't there, you know? Like I would go to a meeting and automatically like, hey, can you speak? Or hey, you know, or being out front of a meeting, somebody asking to take a picture with me. And it's like, fuck, bro, I can't even come like sit in a corner and like, you know, feel my feelings. You know what I mean?
Welcome to the Genesis House powered by the United Recovery Project, located in sunny South Florida. We offer drug and alcohol addiction treatment, as well as a major focus on dual diagnosis. Our addiction therapy programs include behavioral therapy, 12-step facilitation, psychotherapy, life skills training, and more. At our facility, you can expect a low client-to-staff ratio, daily group therapy, weekly one-on-one therapy sessions, and luxury amenities such as volleyball, basketball, pool, chiropractor, personal trainer, yoga, massage therapy, and more. Contact the United Recovery Project today and let's create a better tomorrow.
So it was like the, the double-edged sword of like.
And sometimes working in treatment is like that. It's like when people who first get clean want to work in treatment, I'm like, bro, you have no idea. It's like when you have your anonymity, it feels so good. There was 5 years before I worked in treatment, and it felt so good where I could go to work and not even talk about recovery. Yeah. Then when I would go to a meeting, it would feel like I could relax. As opposed to when you're working in treatment, you're talking to kids about recovery all day, you're talking to people about staying clean, then you go to a meeting, and it kind of just sounds like what you've been doing all day anyways, and then you kind of don't really feel like how impactful it would be if you weren't working in treatment. And then it's like, bro, you go to a meeting, the clients are there, people asking you for jobs and shit, people are asking you for this or that. Yeah. And it's like, when you go there, it's like, like going to the gym and people just asking you workout advice and you just don't get to fucking work out, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. And and for me, that was like one of those things like, bro, like it's all double-edged sword, right? It's all perspective, how we look at it. So for me, that was my excuse for the longest time. Like, oh, this isn't fair. I'm not getting the same experience everybody else is getting because of this, right? But I got to remind myself I am getting an experience, right? So now it's like I had to learn, and like I'm so thankful for my sponsor, my sponsorship family. They like, we're a tight knit group of men. Like, look, bro, like you're nobody fucking special. You know what I mean? You're just another addict. Like I remember like asking my sponsor, like, hey, bro, like why didn't you chase me like when I was getting, and he was like, that's not my job, bro. He's like, my job is to stay here and stay clean and show you this shit works. He's like, it's not my job to chase you. Like, you're nobody special. We got guys dying every day. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not chasing them. What the fuck makes you think I'm going to chase you? And having, to learn like what humility is and learn like, to not run off of ego and pride and stuff like that. But then like coming back, like learning how to like set boundaries, and setting boundaries like with that, like with work. Because like it is like I can say, oh, screw all this shit, but really like this is my calling. This is what I'm best at. Like I'm best at getting knee to knee with another addict and like, hey, how can I help you? And because I had that tenacity, because like I tell people like it's one of my driving forces in life is I don't want another family to go through what my family went through. Whatever I can do, because like I tell people, like that's the worst thing in the world, bro. Like, it don't matter how clean I get, how many days I get, how fucking successful I get in work, any of that shit. You know what I mean? Like I'll never, that spark in my mom's eye will will never shine again. Yeah. She buried her baby as a result of addiction. You know what I mean? So there's nothing I can do to change that. But if I can if I can impact your family where your family won't have to deal with that or go through that, you know what I mean? It's a W for me. You know what I mean? Or
and honestly, when someone dies like that, or there's like some like really hardcore trauma, the only way to even kind of get over it is to use it so you can help other people. Like there's really nothing else you could do with that. Like what else do you do with your sister died?
Yeah. And then coming to understanding, with my sister and then my niece, it was like, until my niece died, like with my sister, it was like all these things, like I could have, should have, would have, could have, should have, would have, could have, should have, would have. But no, the reality of it is like, and I love that, like what you just said, like thinking I'm that powerful. I have no power, right? So like I'm powerless, not to the disease of it. I'm just powerless. I don't garner as much power as I think I do in this world, right? So it's like one of those things, like she made a decision. She made a decision to use one more time, right? And then it's like I look at my niece, like my niece didn't make a decision. It was a tragic accident, right? And this is the gifts of recovery and having a clear, clean mind to be able to process things, right? So it was like when I relapsed and I came back and I was so angry at God for what happened to my niece, right? And then it's like I remember my sister shoots me this picture of my niece's, it was coming up to the 1 year anniversary where she died at, where the accident was. And there was like 1,000 people there. She was 21 years old when she passed away. A year later, 1,000 people show up.
Wow.
It's like, I remember so my dad died at 51, right? And my dad, I found him dead in his apartment. He was dead for like 5 days when we found him.
Wow. And you found him?
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I remember going through that process of like my dad dying, and like the only ones that showed up were me and my siblings. Like nobody else showed up. But my dad died in addict and alcoholic death. My niece, at 21 years old, a year later, she's got 1,000 people still show up to pay tribute to who she was as a human being, right?
Powerful.
So then it dawned on me, then nothing happened to me. You know what I mean? She lost her life. I didn't lose my life. Who am I to take what happened to her and put it on to me?
Mm-hmm.
And then like so many perspective shifts happen like throughout that whole thing, and understand like instead of like, oh man, I can't believe like God took her away at 21. Like no one said like, God, thank you for putting somebody like that in my life for 21 years. Like I got to intimately have her in my life for 21 years.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like, I believe like God creates and takes everything, and it'd be like, bro, if I let you borrow a shirt and I wanted it back, it's like, bro, I'll let you borrow it. You know what I mean? So it's like, they never said for how long. I don't think that God does things to like punish us, but I do think that there are things outside of our control that we need to figure out and learn something from it, as opposed to just being bitter and angry. Because the reality is like we could have been born in another country, in another time, in another place, or not born at all. And it's like just being alive right now, breathing is such a miracle. Like, bro, we're spinning on a fucking planet in space right now at 1,000 miles an hour on like the perfect tilt where like the sun just happens to hit the right way where life could form, and fucking thousands of years had to go by before like someone could fucking like shit a fucking fish out to fucking get a leg. And like for us to get to this point, and then like one thing doesn't go our way and we're like, oh fuck God, so it's like, what someone told me is like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, sometimes fucked up shit happens, and there's still a lot of miracles going on.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't destruction, there wouldn't be miracles. You know what I mean? It's like, if there wasn't fucked up shit in the world, it's like good and bad has to exist.
Yeah. And it, for me, bro, it made it so much easier, like to where it's like now, like I don't question anything. Because like if I don't have the answer, then it's none of my fucking business. If I don't know the answers, it's not. If I don't have the ability to have the answer to something, obviously it's outside of my realm, so it's none of my fucking business. Like it's not up to me to figure out why God does what He does. What it is up to me to do the next right indicated thing in front of me. You know what I mean? Do those things that are suggested in the beginning, and stick with those things, and don't change those things. Bro, we can't come in and reinvent this thing. You know what I mean? Back in the 50s, they created something that works,
and it worked,
works, and it's just up to us to follow that path. We can't recreate it. We can't make it. You know what I mean? We can put on our little flair to it, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing
that they've been doing since the 50s. Yeah.
And it's like abiding by that.
I tell people it's like, I'm not in the results business. So it's like, I'm not trying to get a result. I'm not trying to feel a type of way about a result. Like, I truly believe that when someone dies, when I get a promotion or whatever, my job is to work the principles in the process. So like if someone dies, my job is to work the principles. If I get a promotion, I got to work the principles. If I lose my job, I got to work the principles. And it's like my sponsor drilled that into my head, because I would call him and be like, this person did this, da-da-da-da. And he's like, what principle are you working? Like, you know what I mean? And like, dude, he would always be like, what principle can you work? What principle are you working? Living a principled life. When someone dies, can you practice gratitude?
Yeah.
When someone dies, can you practice faith? When someone dies, can you practice humility? When someone dies, can you practice service? Or are you the motherfucker that only practices that shit when everything's going good?
Yeah. Bro, and it's like my grand sponsor always says, like, if you can't apply spiritual principle to what you're doing, you have no business fucking doing it. If you can't apply spiritual principle to it, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that's our guideline to life. You know what I mean? That's our path right there. Spiritual principles. You live and die by them. You know what I mean? And they do. And it's like, and it's crazy too, because like the more work that I put into it and the more like I live life by it, the easier life gets. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Like when I tell people like, you know, when they say in a fellowship that the message is hope and the promise is freedom, right? Like, bro, like to me, it's like insane. Like when I sit down, I think about like when I look at like how many numbers of days it's been since I woke up and I had the desire to stick a needle in my body. Like, bro, that was my fucking, I love that feeling. I love that the cessation of like everything's okay when I stick a needle in my body and like what it did for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now like I don't think about it. That's my freedom. Like my freedom is like I never have to use again. Like
It's empowering because when something has so much power over you, when you finally learn to get power over it, you just feel like, now what else can I do? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's like in recovery, it's like they say like the monkey's on your back. Well, it's like that's only if you don't have a program. But it's like once you have the program, like now we're on that monkey's back. You know what I mean? It's like now the disease is scared of us. Now the disease is like, oh shit, this motherfucker got a sponsor. He's going to meetings. Like I can't do nothing now, you know? In the beginning, you think like, oh, my life's over. I'm going to live this whack ass life, not using. And then you realize like how much the steps empower you. And it's like, that's one of the biggest like misconception of recovery is like all these people say like, oh, you know, how are you supposed to be powerful if you're working a program that says you don't have any, you know? And the reality is it's past tense. It's were. That there was a time that we didn't know what to do and we were stuck. And now, because we have all these tools and all these different techniques to overcome certain things that the disease does, you know, once you do these things, bro, like you really are in a way where like the disease can't really hurt you.
And that's what it is. So like the hope, right? So the hope isn't that like I make $1 million. The hope isn't that I drive a fucking really expensive car. The hope isn't that I live in a fancy house. Right, that's not the hope that I search for anymore. Right, the hope for me is like I can fucking actually like help another man. Like to me, like that's like where my hope lies. Like I hope I can just like be good. You know, after all the years of like wreckage and carnage that I created and all the bad shit that I did, like is now today like and I see it all the time. Like when one of my sponsees like hit me up and they're like, "Hey, bro, like this makes sense." You know, like I get it, you know, or like, hey, like I'm done doing this. Like, you know, like now I'm out of town for the next like 2 weeks. And like, you know, one of them called me up like, hey, can we FaceTime and like do this work? And it's like, you know, this is a 19-year-old kid in LA. Like you would think he'd rather go out and chase tail, but it's like, nah, he'd rather like hop on a FaceTime call and like do some work. And it's like, that's my hope is that I can instill like the energy in other people of like what we get out of this recovery.
Yeah, and it's like true fulfillment, you know, and it's like I truly believe like the reason why I use is because like going to parties, girls, like that stuff didn't do it for me. It just didn't. Like it felt good, but like other people were fine with going to a party and like playing beer pong. Nah, bro, I want to smoke crack. Like I just wanted to do, I needed something more. You know, like I needed something more. People would tell me about like, you know, what other drugs they were doing. I'd be like, no, dude, you got to do this, you know? And it's like, I just needed something extreme because like, that's how much I felt out of touch with the world. I didn't have any connection. Nothing would scratch that itch. And it's like, you ever feel like doing something you don't even know what it is? You just want to do something. And it's like, I felt that feeling before drugs. I remember being a little kid, I'd be in the house. I just wanted to do something. I want to break a window. I want to do something, you know? Recovery has been the only thing that has like infinitely filled that hole. Where it's like the first time in my life, I feel like I belong. It also feels like an adrenaline rush. I don't get tired of it. I don't get bored of it. Like I don't ever go to meetings and get like sick of seeing a newcomer get clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And the thing is, and it helps us gauge throughout life too, because I tell people all the time, like I can tell like when something's fucked up in an area of my life. Cause like if I go to a meeting and I'm judging, like I need to start doing some work somewhere. You know what I mean? Because it's me, it's not them.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like I have a way to gauge like where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like I never had that before. I didn't know like, you know, like the last time I went to prison, like the crime that I committed, like you know, I committed, I friggin' assaulted somebody, and it lasted a couple of minutes. I didn't know that was going to like fuck up the next couple of years of my life. I didn't know that I was in a state of rage and anger and all. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? It just so happened. Like it just happened. But now it's like, it's amazing. Like I can see, like I can gauge off of like when I'm at a meeting, if I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh man, fuck this person. Like I can go home and be like, wait, why do I think that way? Why do I feel that way? Like what?
Yeah, you get the ability to self-diagnose. Yeah. Where it's like I kind of grew up in a household and area where it's like that's just the way I am. That's just how things are. That's just what it is. And it's like in recovery, like you learn like, nah, if you feel a type of way, you can change it.
Yeah.
If you're negative, you can change it. If you're judgy, you can change it. So it's like you realize that we have a pause button where we can pause, reevaluate, and then focus on what we can control. It's like, am I going to be able to control those people? No. So what's going on with me where like what other people are doing is bothering me so much?
Yeah. It's like I tell people, I don't know if it was like how I said, like in prison, like I got around the right people, in the streets got around the right people, in recovery. I don't know if it's the same thing or what it is, but all I know is like, bro, like I just like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I feel like that my whole life. I feel like I could be in any situation and I can pick out like the head honchos, you know what I mean? Like I can pick out like who's pulling the strings, you know? So it's like when I went to recovery, like I could figure out like who had the clean time, who was respected, who people like, because when people speak, you could tell people are listening to them. So it's like I easily could tell like who was pushing work and who wasn't, you know? So it's like I was just able to be like, okay, like these old heads, I need to see what they're doing, you know?
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing about LA is like you go, there's a lot of meetings you go to, and there's a lot of them guys in there.
Yeah.
You know, you just sit down and you're just like, wow, like the recovery.
And sometimes you have no idea. Yeah, it's like they don't look like anything, you know what I mean? And then like, and then you like keep seeing them, and you're just like, oh, like you know, like that's the plug, you know? It's like that's the guy, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's because like that's like the funny thing, like my sponsor, like if you see him, like if you've seen him from the outside, he looks like he looks like Jesus, bro. To be honest, right? Like and he's not like one of them loud people. He's not like. You know, and that's what I love like about this is like where whatever you lack most, you can get the most of, right? So like my sponsor, and it's like I tell people all the time, like every time I speak or anything, I tell people like I have the best sponsor in the fellowship that I'm in. I have the hands down best sponsor. Nobody's better than him. My thing is like if you don't feel that way about yours, like damn, I feel sorry for you. You know what I mean? Because and I say that because he's the best for me. Because like spiritually, he just like I don't know, man. Just I don't know if it's because he looks like Jesus, or if but no,
it just does it
really,
for you.
Yeah, bro. Like you know, and then it's like seeing his journey, like he was just in Jerusalem and like floating in the Dead Sea and like all these things that came to fruition, like all these things that he's wanted to do and watch them. And it's like and it's like before we do step work, like we always pray. And I remember that first time like doing it in that prayer, and it just like like that sense of like okayness. Like
I still remember the first time someone was like, "Okay, let's pray," and you're just like, you know, you want to fight somebody. You're like, what? You know, it feels because you feel vulnerable when you close your eyes. Because it's like when you're using, like, you know, someone could run your. It just feels uncomfortable to close your eyes with another man with no one else in the room. It's just you don't do that. You know what I mean? And it's like I remember the first time someone did it, and like my first reaction, what the fuck happens to someone to become that way? Because I couldn't believe that. Because when I hung out with this guy, he was totally normal. He wasn't like a pope walking around. He was just a normal dude. But then he could turn this switch, and he could say, "Now let us pray." And you just be like, what? Like, you know, it's kind of like you know, little Chris G.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Chris G. It's like, you know, he's super normal, but bro, that dude's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So it's like, you know, he just presses this button and he could like fuck up anybody, you know? So it's like, you know, definitely. It's like someone who's like a spiritual warrior where it's like they just have this ability that you can't even see that they have it from looking at them. I remember being jealous about it because I remember being like, man, how could someone be that spiritual. Because like if I did that, I would feel like fake or fraud. You know, I'd be like, I don't know if I could really do that ever. You know, now, dude, I've had sponsees for years. We all pray before everything. I feel comfortable praying. It's like so normal to me now.
Yeah, and you can tell they've ruined it because like with my sponsor goes to church so does my sponsor. he never like bro, he don't even invite me. He just says, "Hey, I go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, I read the Bible. This is what I'm reading. You know, I'm doing it.
But
you know,
like no,
he doesn't push it on at all.
Neither does my sponsor.
You know, and then it's like, and then when we're doing step work, like he'll just like his little like punch to the guts, like, yeah, that's God, that's God, that's God. You know, cool. And it's like, and he doesn't push it at all. And it's like, and then over, you know, because he's been my sponsor for a little over 4 years now, so it's like now it's like over this pace. Over 4 years where it's like he's opened me up to like, you know, like I mean to where it's like I can accept all that comes with it. You know what I mean? To where it's like I'm comfortable now. And then it's like I catch myself like with my sponsees telling them like, hey man, like look, like you got to pray for the next 30 days straight. Yeah. If you know, doing all that stuff that we do, you know, and it's like, and I tell them like, because I've done since when I've relapsed and came back, I've done the same thing every single morning. I've done the same thing. It's like I wake up and it's like I don't hit my knees and pray. I'm not one of them dudes. But like as soon as my brain's conscious, I say a prayer. And I didn't even notice till down the line. Like in that prayer, like I surrender. I give my will over and I ask for guidance and I make a commitment. And it's like 10 words, this prayer. I didn't even notice it till I told my sponsor and he broke it down to me. I'm like, damn. You know, and it's like I do these things and it's like, man, and then it's like I get out of bed, I make my bed, I brush my teeth, and like some weird way, like it just
and it's crazy how just like 10 minutes over the course of 10 years just compounds, and that's kind of how spirituality works. You know, I always tell people it's like, you know, if you have one conversation with a stranger and for 5 minutes, you have that 5-minute conversation every day for a year, you're gonna know everything about you, know everything about them. Before you know it, you guys are like best friends. So it's like that. People are trying to get a lifelong relationship in 5 minutes. You know, and people are like, oh, I prayed and nothing happened. It's like, well, motherfucker, you only pray once a year, you know? But it's like, man, pray every single day for 1 minute, 5 minutes for a year and tell me you don't feel different, you know?
Definitely.
So, hey, I want to thank you for coming on this show. It's been awesome, man. I appreciate you driving all this way, and hopefully next time I go to Cali, we'll flip the script on that.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, thank you, bro.
Thanks.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.